Hello and welcome to Frank with a Cup of Joe. Today we'll be talking UFO matters with Don Emilio Zinno. Don, hello.
How are you, Frank? We're not going to pretend we don't know each other. We go way back when.
That's right. Tell us about UFO matters.
Well, more and more people are opening up to the thought of, are we alone in this universe? And I can categorically tell you, no, we're not alone. Here's what I've known since I was a little boy, and you can tell by my black hair that I've been around the mill for a while, is that take scientists, renowned scientists like Drake, what was his name, Carl Sagan, and Hawking's, all these guys, they've openly said that there are literally billions, B as in Bob, billions of galaxies in our vast universe, and now they're proving that there are multi-universes. That's what we know. And within every galaxy like the Milky Way, we have billions of planets. And these guys have also stated publicly in the last 60 years that some of these planets, a good 40% of them, can sustain life of some form. So it's ludicrous to think that we're alone in the universe.
So why has it caught steam in the last year or so?
People are getting more intelligent. People are not afraid to speak up. And since the days of that, because UFOs, and I'll explain the difference in nomenclature that they use, I might as well do it right away. UFO is the iconic 50s, 60s, pop culture, unidentified flying objects. Now, in the last 10 years, they've called it UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. And our military friends, I won't get into that just yet, they call it RSOs, resident space objects. And then, of course, you've got the ETs, which stands for extraterrestrials. All right? Go ahead, Jill.
To touch back, you said it was 40% of the planet.
According to scientists, 40% of the universe can sustain some form of life.
Now, that basis that they need oxygen, water, and what we use.
Yeah,
now, can we also presume that they don't need any of this to survive? And they work on a whole different level than?
Yeah, we can assume that as well. But that's not the question. The question that has been the question of the ages, are we alone in this universe? And the answer is no. Anybody that can listen carefully, do their research, study the phenomena, will realize that, no, we're not alone. And all these sightings that we've seen, and all kinds of sightings. And the military, of course, they kept it secret for the last 150 years, not 50, 150. Why? National security. Why? I'll give you an example. You go outside and you meet a cop, and he's got a nice gun, whatever, and he says, hey, peux-tu montrer ton fusil, ton gun? The guy's going to arrest you right away, put you down. He thinks you're provoking him. No one in their right state of mind, military or police force agents, will ever show you what they have. It's above top secret. It's none of your business. We're here to serve and protect, period.
Now, is this like when you say agencies, is it a government agency or is it a world agency, interconnected?
The military, what we know as the MIC, Military Intelligence Community, which also involves CIA operatives, the various organizations that rely on secrets, technologies. In other words, they keep their secrets, but they want to know yours, which will bring up a point in a few minutes. Go ahead. You have another question?
Yeah, I was going to say that. So they're like an organization that not held to any passports, let's say, more or less. Like we have Canadians and Americans and...
No, they're shadow governments, and this is why there are trillions of dollars that go unaccounted for, because they use that money in order to perpetuate their knowledge of technology, which in their case, knowledge is power. Don't forget, we're living in a world more so than ever, where I was telling Frank in the car on the way here, that according to the cabals are very strong corporate, I would call them unkosher wrongdoers, we'll leave it at that, that control the world, that control governments, that control the little puppets that you guys were talking about earlier on. These guys, they depend on that technology to have power, and they'll never let their guards down. You think, we're opening up. Yeah, they'll give you bits and pieces just to tease you. Why do they do that? Because not too long, they're going to come out and say, hey, we have a real threat about these UFOs, UAPs. We don't know what they are, and we're afraid for national security. These guys, I don't know. We need more money. Cough up your tax dollars so that we can take that money and protect you. And that's what's been happening, very indirect. Now, I'm not saying I'm smarter than anyone else. By the way, I'm known as Don Emilio Zinno. I'm the UFO messenger. I'm not a ufologist. I'm not a historian. I'm not a scientific mind of any kind. I just have the connections because I've been researching and following this subject matter since I was a little boy. And now at 68, I'm not afraid to speak up, provided that it doesn't hurt anyone. Go ahead.
Is there any government that's more open, or they're all about
No.
the same?
A lot of them are controlled by the top governments, because take a guy like Putin now, who's getting pissed off, and by the way, this is internet radio, so I can use slang words, who's getting pissed off. He can very easily threaten USA and China and say, guys, if you don't back off, I'm going to open my mouth and let the world know what I know about above top secrets about UFO disclosure. And then, wow, then Putin becomes a god all of a sudden. But let's shy away from that. America's had a stronghold. They're very, very, very powerful. America alone has trillions, not billions, trillions of dollars of warfare. And why? Because they trust no one. They trust no one. Go ahead.
But do the governments have to kind of...
Jeez, I'd hate to have you as a judge in court. You don't... I'd be guilty as charged, right?
No, it's just the questions because
Jesus Christ. Forgive my slang. Go ahead.
there's all the cameras today, and you look at your cell phone, you got 56 megapixel cameras and drones now that you could buy for fairly on the cheap side.
Mm-hmm.
We're capturing more and more of the sky. We're capturing more and more day-to-day life. Isn't it going to come to a point that the average person, they're going to start getting these photos clearer and clearer?
They are, but the fact is that these so-called UFOs, UAPs, have intelligent backing them up. They are not ready to disclose their existence. In other words, where I'm driving at, it won't be the military anytime soon that are going to come out in the open and say, by the way, we've been hiding the biggest secret of mankind in the last God knows how many years. We're about to tell you the truth. That's not going to happen. Trust me, it's not going to happen.
So it's going to be on their term, not our term.
It'll be the off-world civilizations, which have been rumored to be controlled by certain races. And it's not pretty, because a lot of people, I know a lot of people that have been abducted. By the way, I've never seen a UFO. I want to make that disclaimer. I've never seen a UFO. I'm not into writing UFO books. I'm not there earning my living as a ufologist of any kind. I'm just here in search of the truth for we the people. All of a sudden, in the last 8 years, since I turned 60 years of age, I despise injustice. I really do. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing as a crusader for humanity, for evolving. And by the way, if the MIC is listening to any of these podcasts, I want to say this. I'm all for secrecy. You can't tell the population everything. Very dangerous, because some of these people may use it against us as, a warfare. We're living in very, very delicate times with everything that's happening. Do you understand what I'm saying? And this, by the way, which brings up a point. I know I'm long-winded, but you need to know this information. We're living at a very delicate, pivotal point where we're at crossroads, where the ETs are keeping an eye on what's happening with Mother Earth. And I think soon, based on what I'm hearing, we're going to get at least a false invasion, which will scare the shits out of a lot of people. The me, myself, and I's, the cabals, and people that think that life is all about money, power, and sex. That's not what life is all about. Trust me on that. Go ahead.
When you say a false invasion, you mean
They're gonna, you might see motherships, just like in the science fiction movies, coming in.
but no actual attack, just more of a
Just first of all, if ETs wanted to attack us, there's different races. There's good ETs, bad ETs. Just like on Earth, you have good people, bad people. They would have done that a long time ago and annihilate us. They're light years ahead of us in terms of technology.
Well, like a maverick like Elon Musk, who's really pushing the space travel now.
Yeah.
If he were to find, I don't know, me contact or however,
I
have
believe
more faith in him releasing.
I believe that guys like Elon Musk are somewhat reincarnations of people that came back to finish their job in order to help out with human evolution, because their brain power is far superior than a schmuck like myself, for example, where I'm only a messenger and I report the bits and pieces that I hear all over and have been hearing. And, without bragging, I think I do a pretty good job. But the fact is that I want to get back to the ET. The fact is that ETs right now are really keeping a close eye on humanity. It's gone out of proportion. What's happening on planet Earth with Russia, for example, with Israel, they're all to blame. There's not one side that's responsible. And if anybody out there gets offended, you know what? F you too. What do you want me to tell you? I'm reporting truthfully what I hear out there. Everybody's responsible. You have to show acts of kindness, not think that me, myself, and I, and nobody else has a right to live. And I want to take advantage of this podcast, if it's going to go anywhere, because it ties in with my belief that life is very, very precious. I cannot afford to think that I'm going to have a nice meal and there's little children, could be my grandchildren, that are going to suffer the consequences because of some freaking idiots. I was about to use the other bad word. Thank you, God,
For censoring you.
for censoring me. But the fact is that people need to embrace the fact that we have to change. It can no longer be me, myself, and I. And once we do that, the so-called off-world civilizations, the aliens, call them whatever you want, ETs, are going to acknowledge that, and then they'll intervene and start saying, okay, the time has come for us. And they'll tell the gatekeepers, the guys that control us like puppets and pawns, I won't get into that, cabals, whatever, the 2% of the elite superpowers, they're going to say, no, you're going to release that information. Will it happen during my lifetime?
That's what I was going to ask you. When do you think this will happen?
It'll take, as far as I'm concerned, another 50 years. And my children and my grandchildren will be able to see that and maybe look at this video and say, you had a grandfather that was a space cadet. Who knows?
But Don, what do you tell the listener who's watching this broadcast right now and says, boy, this Don Emilio Zinno guy, he's way off his rocker?
First of all, they have to know what I've been doing for a living. I ran a successful business. I'm semi-retired at 68. I've done a lot of good. And the fact is, but there's one thing I will not tolerate is the me, myself, and I's that are there just to take advantage of the mass population and hurt the mass population. That's the messenger I've become. I'm like reborn within myself to try and do some good. I want to be remembered as a crusader of some kind, but I also don't want to be the richest man in the cemetery. I'd like to be the oldest right now, if I can, So, yeah.
So these unidentified, what are they called now? Not UFOs, they're called?
Unidentified aerial phenomenon. They come in different shapes. For example, we've had way back on December 17, 2017, the Tic Tac. over the ocean, and the pilots have categorically said, no, that's none of our airline technology. No, it's like, I mean, for example,
So they're teasing us.
yeah, and they're also studying us, and I'm sure what they see right now is all bullshit. And the fact is, something has to be done. Now, the fact is that these so-called extraterrestrial crafts, they come in many forms. But make no mistake, there's also been reverse technology, reverse engineering in the last 50 years, where they have the TR-3B's Delta wing that has a anti-gravital magnetic propulsion system, very silent, and they can do wonders. But they cannot travel interstellar. They can only go from here to the moon, which raises questions as to why haven't we gone back to the moon since Apollo 17? Because apparently there's some bases there, military in cahoots with ETs, and they don't want us there.
Well, we're going back to planets. Are we going to the moon back in 2026?
Went to the moon, and didn't India just land on the dark side of the moon? Not too long ago?
Plausible. I don't know. I'm not there. But I'm just saying the fact is that this technology, some of it does exist. It's been reverse engineering. There have been some crashed UFOs in the last 50, 60 years. But I'm going to go with something very, very powerful. It's not seeing a UFO, the engines or whatever it is that's the scary part. The scary part is, and this is where the military want to be able to speak to people that know this information. Have your abductees, ce qu'on appelle en français des enlevés, which we call experiencers. That's the new nomenclature. No, help me out, Frank.
Name and culture?
No, nomenclature. That's the new term that they use, experiencers, because what happens, the experiencers are shown maps when they're abducted. And I've spoken to many experiencers that have said, Don, you're not going to believe what I saw, what I heard, what they said. And categorically, in most cases, I believe them.
And these people were captured, released?
Yeah. Just like we capture whales, dolphins, and tag them. Some of these guys that were corroborated by the late Dr. Roger Lear, they would put nasal cavities up their nose in order to be able to track them. Just like the famous Montreal UFO incident on November 7, 1990, I interviewed a few people that were abductees. One of them is a good friend of mine, believe it or not. And he had a telepathic message. He was there that night that, come outside, you're going to see us. And sure enough, when he walked outside, he saw a mothership stationary up at 10,000 feet, measuring about 2,500 feet in diameter. Do you understand? As a matter of fact, one guy, I can say it because he made it public, Robert D'Alessio was one of them. He was a chauffeur, a bus, and he saw it. So where am I going with this? There's things that a lot of people have seen, a lot of things have happened, but the fact, and by the way, I would never, in my right state of mind, want to be an experiencer, an abductee. It's scary nonetheless. I have police friends that have had a close encounter with abductee, with ETs and sort of crafts and so on and so forth. It's scary, even for a police officer.
So are you trying to say that the reason they haven't shown themselves to the public is because we still are at war with ourselves, more or less?
Yeah.
So we have more of a world peace.
Yeah, and then they have their gatekeepers, meaning the people on Earth that control, in cahoots with them. But don't forget, you also have the good and the bad and the ugly, like in any system. And this is what's been happening for the last 150 years. And by the way, these ETs have been coming on Earth for mining purposes, etc., since the days of Jesus Christ. Do you understand? Some people allege that Jesus Christ himself was a prophet, an ET. Because when they crucified him and then he died and he resurrected, well, we'll leave it at that. Okay? And not only that, and I want to bring this thing, which is a fact, and you can look it up, is that the Vatican that's the most powerful organization on earth, they control, they have a telescope that's the second largest telescope on the planet Earth. And guess what it's called? You're going to freak out. And this is all Wikipedia. It's called Lucifer. Lucifer.
Lucifer.
Okay? And by the way, I want to put a point. I think personally, and I know they say don't ever mix politics, religion, and whatever, but I have to in this case. Guys, have a mind of your own. Do what is best for you and your loved ones first and foremost, and then lend a kind heart to people, strangers. Don't be mean. Don't be malicious. And if all religions got together and said, you know what, we're going to solve this world hunger, poverty, not by giving them filet mignon, screw that. It's not by eating filet mignon all day long that you're going to be healthier and happier. But the fact is that if these people, for example, all got together and said, we're going to eradicate the world hunger once and for all, they can do it. They have the money. They have the power. They don't want to do it. They're evil. Why? Because master-servant syndrome. Everybody wants to serve. Everybody wants to serve it. Everybody, I'm going to make a lot of money. I don't care how I make the money, but you're going to be my servant. You're going to do this for me, and so on and so forth. I'm sorry, I've reached, again, a stage of my life where I can decipher what's right, what's wrong, and do what's best in order to respect human beings.
How do you think they feel right now of what's going on with the situation in Ukraine, in the Middle East, and other regions of the world?
I'm sure the good ETs are saying, my God, you guys are regressing instead of progressing. It's unreal. It's unreal. Who's right and who's wrong? Well, guys, you want to hate me? You want to do whatever? There's no right. There's no wrong. You have to eliminate all this. I hold back not to use the bad words, but you have to lend yourselves to thinking that everyone on earth has a right to think, to live, have access to clean water, to the basic amenities, food and shelter, and the rest. I don't need a $100,000 car to drive in these impoverished Quebec roads that are sick and sickening. I don't need a $100,000 watch to tell the time. My $100 watch works great and looks nice. People need to shy away from materialistic things in order to avoid being a slave to the system. And that brings up maybe a last point. Humanity are slaves to the system. They want you to be a slave because when they have you indebted, when they have you to the hilt with credit cards, when they have you to the hilt on dependency, it's like somebody who's on a drug and needs that drug every day in order to survive. And that's what they want you to do. You got to be stronger than that and put your mind, the power within you, and say, no, I'm not going to follow the leader. I'm going to do what's right. And maybe that will set a precedent to the world and how we can change for the better. And then the so-called good ETs will contact us and say, all right, we're ready for interstellar relationships. And that's what I believe is going to happen. But it won't happen until 50 years from now. I'm just throwing a figure, maybe more.
If our listeners want more information about this topic,
do your own research. I'm a nobody, meaning, yeah, I can tell you some of the projects that I'm working on that make me excited, that who I know worldwide and who I've come across, which would impress you. But I'm not here. I'm not here to sell you tickets to an event. I'm not here to write a book. I'm just here to help out as the messenger to help change humanity into a better tomorrow. Especially now that, I'm a grandfather as well. I want to continue that legacy and make sure that my grandchildren will have a better world to live in and not live within the corrupt earth that I've experienced in the last 68 years of my life.
Don, have they approached you or sent you any signals thanking you for what you're doing?
Who's they?
The
community at large.
No, I get to people that I work with, and like I said, I have a lot of world connections, and they appreciate the fact that I'm a good messenger, that I'm quite knowledgeable on many fronts, and they appreciate that I'm not there stating facts. I'm there stating an opinion. I'm giving messages. And if you're asking me, have I ever gotten a vision? Once in a while, in my dream state. In my dream state, I've had close encounters of the third kind. In my dream state. And they sometimes, I believe, they've even used me because of my voice and data acumen to vehiculate certain messages. But I'm not going to go out there and say, hey, come and pay $100 to come and see me at a venue and buy my book. Those are charlatans. And I don't do well with.
Are you on social media if people want more information?
Facebook. I'm on,
Instagram?
No, X, Twitter X. I'm on YouTube. Just punch in Don Emilio Zinno. And I'm also now more so than ever, as you know, with VIP. Forgive my Italian. I love to talk with my hands, you know. I'm president founder of VIPinternetradio.com, which was formed in 2010. And we have a new and renewed mission. And we have certain things that are going to be stated on that station very, very soon. And maybe from a selfish point of view is why I came with you, Frank, because I want to take this advantage, the more years.
Well, you're here, Don. I mean, they haven't brought you back up. You're still on Earth.
Well, they tried to beam me up through the window one night, and they said, don't cut this out. We might as well show them we're humans. Hey, fuck, Don, lose some weight. Our tractor beams can't suck you through the window. And they went away. So I've been trying to lose some weight now, but, I'm Italian. I love to eat. What can I tell you?
Don Emilio Zinno, UFO Effect, Frank, with a cup of Joe. We'll talk to you next time. Thank you.
Have a good one.